Hi, this is Bobby Edwards from Bridgehead Software. You're viewing part 7 of my 7-part series on disaster recovery for Caché-based EMRs for hospitals. In this part, I'm going to cover presentation and connection layer recovery. I hope you find this valuable, and I would appreciate your feedback, so please send it to our Twitter handle @BridgeheadHDM. You can also visit us at our website, www.bridgeheadsoftware.com. This is the presentation and connection layer recovery, part 7 of 7. Again, this graphic shows the overall environment, but what we're truly concerned with here really is the presentation and connection layer. So recommended protection. Again, what is the backup necessity here? What's the recommendation? You know, according to what Epic recommends, archive data, web blob server data, these should be backed up nightly. They've defined 300 gigabytes of disk space. And again, over time, this is something that could come to require more space than this. And if so, it has the potential to require significant amounts of disk, and therefore backing it up could become problematic. So an alternative method to this may be desirable. So rather than using a backup methodology in these, at some point, it may be desirable to leverage an archive methodology instead. That would offer protection more quickly in the event of a failure, because the archive could pick up the file within moments of residing on the appropriate disk location. The other thing that needs to be considered here is that the DR web blob server data needs to be backed up nightly if it's activated. Again, this starts to come into during configuration. A process needs to be established. Otherwise, when it's time for this system to be used in a live environment, the backup will have to be configured at the last second, and it won't be able to back up at that point. So planning for this in advance will make sure that the configuration takes into account this may be necessary. So the presentation connection layer recovery, very little data in these environments has permanence. There are certain servers where it does, but as a general rule, it doesn't have a lot of permanence requirements around it. The environment themselves can often be best recovered through recreation by porting the server to another server within the VM environment. But backup still plays a role specific to the Inconnect and web blob servers, as well as archiving may play a role with the web blob server too. So although some of these servers are not significant in their data requirements, it might be a good planning consideration to do weekly backups of the C and state. In the event that a failure does happen, it would just simplify the recovery of that particular server into a functional state. The goal being minimize impact on the end user and on the recovery process in the event that it has to happen. So looking back at this again, we're going to be talking about again, why Bridgehead for Epic Data Management? The Bridgehead approach, it's an engineered, standardized product solution as opposed to scripted, costly, and other solutions that can be difficult to maintain. It's integrated with APIs to assure application consistent data capture as opposed to crash consistent data capture, which is not always usable upon recovery. It offers off-host backup processing, which eliminates the load from the processing on the production server, which can slow down the Epic implementation and usage. Bridgehead allows for more frequent points in time of data capture, as opposed to a once-a-day methodology that, without the appropriate controls wrapped around it, can impact how well this is accomplished, and it could potentially impact how the clinician uses the system. Bridgehead's approach offers better granularity of protection and simplified recovery of Caché journals, object.dat files. We offer versioning control, the precision of knowing which file supports which Epic production server. Individual journals, objects, and .dat file recovery is simple and quick. As opposed to an alternative approach, the entire database protection and recovery without versioning control, without the automated mapping of the file to Epic production server and .dat file, and without individual journal, object, and .dat recovery, it can create a more complex and time-consuming recovery approach. Bridgehead does offer a unified approach to backup and recovery designed for the entire Epic environment. Again, the difference here is in alternative solutions, many of them are piecemeal and they approach backup and recovery with different components in which the environment requires different backup methods and technologies. You've lost that single view into the system. Having the reports on successes and failures along the way sent in an email format to the backup and recovery team is much simpler within the Bridgehead operation. People know from a single email in the morning whether or not that night's backups have run successfully or not. Again, a clear, simple picture of doing it as opposed to tracking down the different systems manually, which could take several hours to verify did the backup run appropriately. That concludes part 7 of our 7-part series on disaster recovery for Caché-based EMRs for hospitals. I hope you found this session valuable. I also encourage you to follow Bridgehead on Twitter for notification on future presentations at BridgeheadHDM. Our website again, www.bridgeheadsoftware.com. Thank you.